The Appalachian Mountains are as ancient as they are unique. After 300 million years, they have been formed into a beautiful landscape with astonishing views.
They're really old and weathered mountains. Geologists say that they actually used to be just as big as the Rockies out west, but over time they've been worn down. Nature's really taken its toll on the mountains here, and you can see it.
The density of the vegetation around here is pretty unique. It's definitely a lot different feel than out west, where everything is very open and exposed.
That's what's so great about it. You never feel like you're in a desert. You always feel like you're in kind of a comfortable mountainous sofa.
Towards the southern end of their great swath are the western mountains of North Carolina. Home to some of the most diverse and distinct stone found in the mountain range, they offer another gift for those that seek it. North Carolina is also where some of the best climbing can be found in the Appalachians. It is a sport that demands keen mental and physical abilities, and while one might think of it as a solo activity, this is rarely the case. In fact, climbing is much more fun with a partner.
Well, I like climbing with my son because I like having that environment for him. I like watching him explore and learn that environment. And plus, I guess selfishly, I want him to be a rock climber too.
Climbing may seem daunting for those trying it for the first time. Bouldering, a form of climbing without rope at low elevations, is a good way to gain initial understanding and technique. Since the only equipment it requires are shoes and a crash pad for safety, it is also highly accessible to those who wish to learn.
People have often asked me why do I do this counterintuitive activity? Because if I were made to climb things, I might have claws or, more dexterous appendages like an ape or a squirrel. But I don't.
There are many different types of surface features found in the rocks of North Carolina, and each requires a different method for climbing. Crack climbing is one of these.
I've got a hand-sized crack like this big. I'm going to put my hand in where it's kind of skinny and then kind of tuck my thumb under. You kind of have to play with it depending on the size of the crack.
When we climb things. We climb a ladder, we climb ladder rungs, we climb trees, we climb branches. Crack climbing is the opposite, because in crack climbing we have to climb something that's not there. We have to jam our body parts into the void, into constrictions in the rock.
You're jamming your hands and your fists and sometimes your arms and whole body in a crack. So you have to get really creative about how to use your body to make your way up. So crack climbing would probably be my favorite. One of my least favorite would be slab climbing or low angle climbing, where all you have is your feet.
But the rock is less than vertical, so it lays down like a very steep ramp.
That involves a lot of trust in the friction of the rock and your shoes, that they're going to stick.
Face climbing, which simply involves moving up a vertical face, might seem like the most straightforward type of all, but this is not always true.
In face climbing, there are holds, but the holds may be disparate in nature. So the sequence of how we use our body to move through those distances is really an intellectual process. I can't put my right hand on this hold and then assume that another hold is going to be available for my left hand. I have to get my left hand in the correct order. I guess I have a running debate with folks from the East. What's the best rock climbing east of the Mississippi? Because I will contend, with an admitted bias, that it's North Carolina. Because North Carolina has the greatest diversity of rock climbing.
Once a climber has become comfortable with bouldering in North Carolina, they may seek a greater challenge by climbing to greater heights.
When you're climbing, you got a lot of air underneath you, as opposed to other places where you just have kind of tiers of rock underneath you. A lot of times you're climbing on an arête, or kind of like a corner of the rock, so you'll have 250 to 300 degree views around you. One of my best friends, sophomore year, his dad used to climb a lot, and it always seemed kind of a cool, interesting thing to us, but his dad ended up giving him this huge duffel bag full of gear from like the 70s. And we were gung-ho, 19 years old, all about it. So we grabbed this gear, got a book or two, read a little bit about it, and started going out and using it. And looking back on it, it's amazing we didn't kill ourselves because we really had no idea what we were doing. So I guess it was all about the adventure.
To a person that is unfamiliar with climbing, the enthusiasm that a climber shows for the sport might seem overzealous, but this is only because there is far more to climbing than the act itself.
I do it because I've done a lot of sports, I've done a lot of activities, and this activity I find to be the most challenging in the most diverse ways. It's a holistic challenge. It challenges me intellectually because I have to use my wits to figure out how the sequence is going to go with my body. I have to use my cleverness to use my equipment correctly. And I also have to deal with an emotional challenge. This is scary. So I have to figure out a way to decide if that fear is appropriate and then manage it if it is appropriate. And there's a physical challenge as well. Obviously, I have to condition myself to deal with these vertical rigors. And that's why I do it. That's why I love it.